What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode here at Militia. So since we can't go out and wheel in the mountains because everything's shut down, it's only right we keep busy. So today we're gonna do the review on the Gladiator. It has just close to 20,000 miles now, and I want to show off pretty much all the damage, where the tires are at, suspension's at. I'll give you guys a small review of how I feel about the Gladiator, and now having the Bronco, tell you guys a little bit of the differences. But the Gladiator's sitting pretty, and then we're gonna get started. Stay tuned. Before we jump into the breakdown of all the parts and installs that we did, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about where the 20,000 miles came from. So the first probably 2,000 to 3,000 miles came from driving it here locally stock, and then after that we took one long trip to Lake Tahoe, and then after that we pretty much switched out the whole Jeep. We got it ready for King of the Hammers, and it was suspension, tires, pretty much everything, bed rack, lighting, everything came from Weston and Super Winch. But yeah, as a stock vehicle, we didn't drive it too much, so I can't give you a solid review, but it is a Rubicon, so most Rubicons are super capable. It was fully locked, it did have all the bells and whistles, everything I threw at it, it was able to do. As a Gladiator, you do have to deal with the belly rubbing a little bit, but that's pretty much it. We'll break down the inside because that's all regular Rubicon, and then we'll go with the suspension mods and tires. All right, so first things first, we'll talk about the rim and tire package. So the factory Rubicon comes with 33 MTs. We opted to upgrade up to 37s. We went with Yokohama MTXs, which are outstanding for grip. They are a little noisy, but as you can see from the tread, they're super aggressive, and they give you pretty much all you need for grip. With the rims, the factory Rubicon does come with 17s. I also went with 17s, but we did upgrade to a beadlock, and the offset is pretty nasty on these wheels. It's a negative 38, so it gives you all the right amount of poke. Next thing we'll go into is lighting. First things first, we have the access lights down here at the bottom of the bumper, and we also have them up top. The reason we went with the round ones is to kind of fill out this whole Jeep aura here with the round light. The next thing we're going to talk about is the stubby bumper. This stubby bumper does come with the skid plate from Weston. It's nice and sturdy. We banged it up quite a bit, and it's doing really well. We also have the package for their fenders from Weston, so pretty much everything you see on here, it's either going to come from Weston or Super Winch. The Super Winch is an SX10. It's a 10,000 pound capacity with a synthetic rope. So one awesome thing about this SX10, it is Bluetooth. All you have to do is come engage the clutch, and then you have the remote on the inside, no wire needed, and it looks awesome. The final piece that's here in the front end is we do have these pods. The hood pods, I've never seen anybody else on them. So pretty much everywhere we've gone, people ask me, like, where are these pods, who makes them? And again, they're a piece from Weston. We're gonna go on to the sliders set up there. We'll break down the inside, we'll break down these awesome tube doors, and then we'll get with you. Give us a sec. All right, so we just finished breaking down the front end. We're gonna move on to the side. Obviously the Rubicons don't come with tube doors, they come with their factory everyday door, but we did switch them out to these Rancho Performance tube doors. I'll drop down the part number right here below, and then next thing we're going to talk about is the factory Rubicon comes with rock rails, I believe they call them, and we switched them out to these side steps that Weston carries. These are a little bit stronger than your everyday step. They're not really rock sliders. Weston is coming out with some factory rock sliders that are going to look similar to these, that'll frame mount a little bit better, but these are really, like, you know, if you have your family with you, you want them to have a step to be safer going up, that's a perfect setup to do. They're called the triple tube side steps. We just finished wrapping up the side. As you can see, we have the matching tube fenders that match the front end. They're also from Weston. We're going to talk about the factory rear Rubicon, because obviously this isn't how it comes. The factory stock bumper does have hooks. It is steel, so it's really strong and it's really nice, but we decided to go with the Weston option just so it can match the whole front end. This bumper gives you the option of putting rock lights and chase lights on it, so it's really nice to have. All right, so we're going to break down what we have up top and then also what's in the bed. So because I did get the factory Rubicon, the Rubicon in the factory form does not come lined, so I went with the black armor bed mats to protect my bed, and then I also have some Molly panels from 813 Performance. As you can see, they hold everything in place. These rails are the Mopar rails. Again, this was the factory like base Rubicon, so it doesn't come with it. I ended up having to pay for them, but they do help with setting up your roof rack and setting up any other panels and mollies that you want to install in it. All right, so now we wrapped up the bed. It's pretty simple. Again, black armor bed mat, 813 Performance Molly panels, and that wraps up the rear. So we're gonna move up to the top. We're gonna move on to this Weston Overland bed rack, and then we have a Smittybilt Gen 2 RTT10. All right, so now we're gonna get into the juicy part of the build. The factory Rubicon comes with a Rubicon Fox shock that's designed specifically for the Rubicon. I really don't know the valving or anything like that. I did ride them for about 2 weeks. We put about 2,000 miles on them, and they rode fine, but you're definitely missing some of that height. So we ended up switching it out we're going to talk about what we put on it. All right, so for the kit that we actually threw on the Gladiator, we actually went with the Frankenstein build, because when we were building this truck, we were doing it for King of the Hammers and everybody was out of parts. So we hit up a few partners. We went with Icon, Bilstein. So I'm going to break it down and show you what we got. For the arms and springs, we went with Icon. The front spring rate is 600, the rear spring rate is 700 to get that extra load when you load up the bed. And for shocks, we went with the Bilstein shocks. These shocks are heavy duty, thicker shaft, and also have resi. So resi's in the front, resi's in the rear, and they took all the punishment we've thrown at them. We did end up upgrading to the JKS Performance end links, and then we did do the steering stabilizer from Bilstein to match up the whole setup. I'm going to take you guys to the rear and show you what the piggies look like in the rear, so that way you guys can see what the shock is. All right, so we moved on to the rear just so I can show you the shock. So these are also extra heavy duty, the bigger shaft, and it comes resied up in the rear also. I've thrown everything at it and they've taken it up, soaking it up nice. Again, we do have a 700-pound spring rate in the rear for the extra weight when we do load up the Gladiator. We're going to move on to the interior and then we'll close it up. All right, so like I said, we're gonna break down the interior. So I'm gonna get in here, get comfortable, and show you all the goods. You know it's a Rubicon because you get that red trimming right off the bat as you walk in. So because we went with the base Rubicon, you get the cloth. But if you go with the daddy of all daddies, you'll get the leather seats, you'll get the heated, you'll get the cooled. Pretty much you get the real setup. But because I knew I was gonna destroy mine, I went with the cloth and then just went with the infotainment system. So I did opt for the bigger screen. And other than that, everything else on here is basically a Rubicon. Again, if you do get the full shit version, you'll get 4 auxiliary switches that are in this little section here. So that's pretty nice. That's the only other thing I wish I would have got, just because you'll be pre-wired for 4 things already. But I ended up doing a switch panel in here. That's pretty much the only mod other than the phone holders and stuff. It's a Rubicon. It is cool because it is still manual. You don't have all the electronics that'll pretty much mess everything up. Front and rear locker switch is right here. To disconnect is right there. Rear locker is here, sway bar button, off-road plus. We'll go ahead and start it so you guys can see the screens, and then we'll break down the engine, one mod that we have in there, and then we'll wrap up the video. Stay tuned. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start the truck for you so you can see the animations on the screens. We'll break that down. I'll show you a couple things that are in here, and then we'll go on to the engine bay and we'll wrap it up. Let's start this bad boy up. So everything is digital. The entry point is pretty nice, gives you the year they started. We have Sirius also. It comes factory for a few months. But yeah, the screen is basically, you know, if you own a Jeep or any other truck, most of the things are all the same. This one's a Uconnect from Chrysler, but we have mirror dimming, a lot of the options. You can look all that stuff up. I don't need to break that down. Another thing that did do to the interior was the spider shade. It's a basic color black. It straps up all the way to the rear. It protects you a little bit from the sun, but it really is just there for looks. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pop the hood and show you what the performance intake that we put on it. So we went to K&N, we did a factory walk with them. They ended up installing one of their intakes on our truck. That's basically what it looks like. We're gonna go ahead and give it a couple revs so you can hear what it sounds like. All right, so you guys saw the full breakdown of the Gladiator, 20K in. It's an amazing truck. If you're looking for a truck that's capable, look no further, man. The Gladiator is kind of where it's at. We have a Bronco also. It doesn't compare to this when you're talking about space, the crawling abilities, but the Gladiator in its form and everything, it's an amazing truck. So if you guys have any questions for me, make sure you drop them below in the comments, and we'll see you next time.